When an insulated ground wire is sleeved inside a section of electrical metallic tubing, also known as EMT, the requirement to bond both ends of the pipe is present regardless of whether the ground wire is bare or insulated. This is a crucial concept for ensuring electrical safety and adherence to the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Let's delve into the reasons and implications of this requirement. The primary purpose of grounding is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This low impedance path facilitates the rapid operation of overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, in the event of a ground fault. When a fault occurs, a large amount of current flows through the grounding system. If the grounding system is not properly installed and maintained, it can impede the flow of fault current, leading to elevated voltages on metal parts and creating a shock hazard. EMT, like other metal conduits, is recognized as an equipment grounding conductor. This means it can serve as part of the grounding path. However, to effectively function as a grounding conductor, the EMT must be properly bonded to ensure electrical continuity. When an insulated ground wire is run inside EMT, the EMT becomes part of the grounding path. If a fault were to occur on the insulated ground wire within the conduit, the fault current could potentially flow through the EMT. If the EMT is not bonded at both ends, the path for fault current may be interrupted or have a high impedance. This can prevent the overcurrent protection device from operating quickly, increasing the risk of electrical shock or fire. Bonding refers to the process of creating a low impedance connection between metal parts of the electrical system. In the case of EMT, bonding is typically achieved using appropriate fittings, such as bonding lock nuts or grounding bushings. These fittings ensure that the EMT is electrically connected to the equipment enclosure or other grounded metal parts. The NEC mandates that metal conduits, including EMT, be effectively bonded to ensure electrical continuity and provide a reliable ground fault current path. This requirement applies regardless of whether the ground wire inside the conduit is bare or insulated. The NEC Section 250.4 A5 specifically addresses the effective grounding path and electrical continuity of metal raceways and enclosures. This section emphasizes the need for these metal components to be securely connected to ensure a low impedance ground fault current path. The importance of bonding both ends of the EMT can be further understood by considering the impedance of the conduit itself. EMT is typically made of steel, which has a certain amount of impedance to the flow of alternating current. If the EMT is only bonded at one end, the fault current has to travel the entire length of the conduit before it can return to the source. This increases the impedance of the grounding path, which can slow down the operation of the overcurrent protection device. By bonding both ends of the EMT, the fault current has two paths to return to the source, reducing the overall impedance of the grounding path. The specific methods for bonding EMT are outlined in NEC Section 250.92 and 250.96. These sections provide detailed requirements for ensuring that metal raceways and enclosures are effectively bonded. Common bonding methods include the use of listed fittings, such as bonding lock nuts and grounding bushings, as well as the use of bonding jumpers. When using bonding lock nuts, it is important to ensure that they are properly tightened to provide a secure electrical connection. Grounding bushings are typically used when the EMT enters a box or enclosure through a knockout. These bushings provide a means of connecting a grounding conductor to the EMT, ensuring that the conduit is effectively bonded. Bonding jumpers are often used to connect sections of EMT or to bond the EMT to other metal parts of the electrical system. These jumpers should be sized appropriately for the available fault current and should be securely connected to the metal parts. In addition to bonding both ends of the EMT, it is also important to ensure that the insulated ground wire is properly sized and connected. The size of the ground wire is determined by the size of the overcurrent protection device protecting the circuit. NEC Table 250.122 provides guidance on the minimum size of equipment grounding conductors based on the rating of the overcurrent protection device. The ground wire should be connected to the equipment grounding terminal in the electrical panel and to the grounding terminal of the equipment being served. This ensures that the equipment is effectively grounded and that a low impedance path is provided for fault current. It is important to note that the requirements for grounding and bonding can vary depending on the specific application and the local electrical codes. It is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure that the electrical system is installed and maintained in accordance with all applicable codes and standards. Here are some additional points to consider regarding grounding and bonding of EMT with an insulated ground wire inside. Firstly, ensure that all fittings used for connecting and bonding the EMT are listed for the purpose. Listed fittings have been tested and evaluated to ensure that they meet applicable safety standards. Secondly, when installing EMT in wet or damp locations, it is important to use fittings that are listed for use in those environments. These fittings are designed to prevent water from entering the conduit and corroding the connections. Thirdly, regularly inspect the grounding and bonding connections to ensure that they are tight and free from corrosion. Corrosion can increase the impedance of the grounding path and reduce its effectiveness. Fourthly, when making modifications or additions to an existing electrical system, always ensure that the grounding and bonding are properly maintained. Improper grounding and bonding can create a safety hazard. Fifthly, consider the use of supplemental grounding electrodes, such as ground rods or ground plates, to improve the overall grounding system. These electrodes provide an additional path for fault current to return to the source. Sixthly, when working with electrical systems, always follow safe work practices, including wearing appropriate personal protective equipment and de-energizing circuits before working on them. Electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. Seventhly, understand the difference between equipment grounding and system grounding. Equipment grounding provides a path for fault current to return to the source, while system grounding provides a reference point for the voltage of the electrical system. Eighthly, be aware of the requirements for grounding and bonding in special locations such as hospitals, data centers, and industrial facilities. These locations may have additional requirements due to the critical nature of the equipment being served. Ninthly, consider using a ground fault circuit interrupter, also known as a GFCI, to provide additional protection against electrical shock. GFCIs are designed to detect small amounts of current leakage to ground and trip the circuit, preventing electrical shock. Tenthly, stay up to date on the latest changes to the NEC and other applicable electrical codes and standards. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, and it is important to stay informed about the latest requirements. In summary, when sleeving an insulated ground wire within a section of EMT, bonding both ends of the pipe is essential to ensure electrical safety and compliance with the NEC. This requirement applies regardless of whether the ground wire is bare or insulated. By properly bonding the EMT, a low impedance path is provided for fault current, allowing overcurrent protection devices to operate quickly and preventing electrical shock or fire hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure that the electrical system is installed and maintained in accordance with all applicable codes and standards.